Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. So I have another reaction for you guys. This time it's not really a trailer. I'm going to react to a bit of movie talk, movie news from one of the best YouTubers who gives the best movie news here on YouTube, which is John Campea. If you guys are not subscribed to his channel, please go check him out. He is an amazing, guy that keeps you up to date on anything that involves movies, TV shows, etc. So he is my go-to guy when it comes to like movies and whatnot. I enjoy watching his channel. So I am going to react to a video that he did regarding Men in Black International. I got a request to react to this video. So basically, if you guys haven't heard, excuse me, the new Men in Black movie starring Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson did poorly at the box office and didn't get good reviews. I was really hoping that this movie was going to do well. I even wanted to see it, and I love the chemistry between Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. I mean, if you guys saw Thor Ragnarok and even Avengers Endgame, those two play really well off of each other. They have really nice chemistry. And from what I've heard, they said that their chemistry works in this movie. However, the plot is a little meh. So, which is unfortunate. I was really hoping for the best of, for this franchise, but anyway, again, I'm going to react to this. Like I said, I got a request to react to this. So let's see what Mr. John Campea has to say.
All right, with that down, let's move on to main item number 2. And our second main item today gets sent in to us from Josh A., who writes, "Hey, John. So I just read that the Hollywood Reporter report about the behind-the-scenes mess on Men in Black 4, particularly that the producer oversaw several rewrites before and during shooting that clashed with the vision that the director and stars signed up for. So much so that the stars hired their own writer. Not saying it would definitely have been better, but this is not the way to run a production. Am I right?" Okay. For those of you who have not, well, number one, you guys have all heard that Men in Black is in theaters, and although it hit number 1 at the box office, it was a pretty measly number 1, not even cracking $30 million on its opening weekend, way below what they were expecting, what they were hoping for. The audience just didn't turn out for it. Critical ratings, last time I checked, it's sitting about a 25%, so that's not good. I didn't think the movie was a dumpster fire, but it also wasn't good. It was not a good movie. Had some redeeming qualities, not good, whatever. Now these stories are coming out that, I gotta tell you what, Rob, although there is behind-the-scenes drama on probably just about every production and every movie, there's some degree of drama. You're talking about having hundreds, sometimes thousands of people working on something, hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake. Obviously you're going to get some drama on some level on every production. It's human nature, and sometimes creative genius comes out of conflict. So that can sometimes be good, I guess, to some level. But the stories we're hearing coming out of this Men in Black stuff is unreasonable and unforgivable that Sony let this happen. Now, you guys will know if you've been watching the show for a while, I'm becoming more and more pro-Sony. I think Sony's been making some good moves. They've certainly been putting out some good movies. They've been doing some course correction. They've done some really interesting personnel hires, all that kind of stuff. I'm becoming more and more pro-Sony. But I'm telling you what, I'm reading this story, and all I can think about is the incompetence of not just the people involved in the drama, but the people above them who should have got involved. Now, I want to read a little bit at length here, some of the excerpts from this story, just to kind of paint the picture. So the basic idea is this. There was a script that they came up with that everybody liked for the movie. Sony liked it. F. Gary Gray, the director, liked it. The actors liked it. The story made a point to point out that, hey, you don't get Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson on board unless they like the script. That was all on board. It involved something like, at the heart of it was going to be like kind of a moral of the story of immigration things, which is perfect for a Men in Black movie, right? I mean, that's perfect for a Men in Black movie. It was going to be that. The villains were going to be a band that were kind of like the Beatles, but they merged to form one super alien bad guy, kind of like Constructicons and Transformers or something. All of it sounds great.
That was cool.
However, the executive at Sony, and we're going to get into this here in a second in the Hollywood Reporter report, the executive at Sony who was in charge of overseeing this movie left Sony near the beginning of the production. And they never replaced him. And they never gave any more oversight to the movie, and they just left the director and the producer to fight it out amongst themselves. Let's read some of the excerpts from this Hollywood Reporter story. Again, I usually don't like to read too much from a report, but this is key stuff. So let's listen to this. Okay, so... But when the Sony executive overseeing the project, Executive Vice President of Production David Beaubert, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, exited the studio in the summer of 2018 and was never replaced, a tug-of-war began. Director F. Gary Gray, who helmed Straight Outta Compton and The Fate of the Furious, and Walter Parks, the veteran producer and Spielberg confidant who helped make the original Men in Black movie, clashed on the vision for the film, a source says. Now, it goes on in another part to say this. Early drafts of the script were described as being edgier and more timely, tying the story to the current debate surrounding immigration. Multiple sources describe Parks, the producer, who had final cut rights on the film, as having a heavy hand in overseeing rewrites that F. Gary Gray didn't even want. Overseeing rewrites not only during pre-production process, but during the production as they're shooting the movie. The producer stepping and says, I want to change this script, and all the kind of stuff away from what the actors wanted. It goes on later to say, two sources say that Parks at times also stepped in on helming duties, although no Directors Guild of America rules were said to have been violated. F. Gary Gray tried to exit the production several times, but was convinced to stay by the studio, as a source says. Even color correcting was a source of contention between the director and the producer.
So the director and producer.
Now, the article goes on to talk about a lot of other stuff, including the fact that at some point Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth hired their own writers to come in and rewrite their dialogue. I mean, it was because, can you imagine, look, a movie set is a mass of movement and action and chaos, and hopefully controlled chaos, but chaos and a lot of confusion. Can you imagine that you're trying to make this movie, and the day of shooting, you're on like day 14 of shooting, whatever, and the producer is sending in a courier, hey guys, here are the new pages. Like, what do you mean new pages? First of all, the director is going, what do you mean new pages? And the actors are going, what do you mean new pages? Like, all this kind of stuff. Look, Rob, I've always said that, hey, bottom line is, the movie belongs to the producers. The producers are in charge, all right? And a lot of times when there's producer and director conflict, you'll hear me kind of side with the producers, because I think normally that's the right thing. But the thing with this situation is, what movie you're making needs to be something that is established and all agreed upon before you start the movie. And if problems come along, you all work together to overcome them and do some rewrites if you need them, whatever. But once the director signs on, it's like, this is the movie we're making, we're all agreed, great. You don't then step in as a producer and start stomping all over the movie that the director agreed to make, unless the director is going off in some different direction, and that doesn't seem to be the case here. Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem to be the case here. F. Gary Gray was trying to make the movie they had all agreed to make, and some over-involved, sticking his nose in where it didn't belong producer, who had already signed off on everything, stepping in and taking upon himself to get new pages rewritten, all this kind of stuff. Now, it even goes on to say in this Hollywood Reporter story, Rob, that they actually ended up making two cuts. F. Gary Gray's cuts and the producer's cut.
Oh, my God.
And say, fine, we'll each put our final cut together and we'll put it in front of our own individual audiences, and we'll see who prefers it. Well, guess what? The producer had final say, so he went with his cut. So it didn't matter. And Rob, as messy as all this sounds, and I do want to get your thoughts on this mess here in a second, but as messy as all of this sounds, my big question becomes, where the hell was Sony while this mess was going on? Where the hell was Sony while people working on your movie are having massive clashes, tugs of war? We're having the whole premise of the movie being changed and rewritten. The director doesn't like it. The director threatens to leave, and the only time you step in is to convince him to stay, probably promising him another movie down the line, which I hope he gets. But the question for me is, the bottom line is, like, is there some responsibility here on F. Gary Gray? Damn right. Is there a responsibility here on the producer? Damn right. But bottom line for me is, Sony at some point, being in charge and being the studio of this project, they needed to step in and referee this. They needed to step in and mediate this. Because I'll tell you what, I have been in charge of double-digit, multiple-size teams before. And of course, whether it's at AMC or another place I work at, there were a number of occasions when I had different people on my team at odds with each other. And that's fine. But once the individuals being at odds with each other started to affect the work, once it started to become public, or people could see what was going on, or it was causing our projects not to get done, a couple of times, there was this one time in particular, that I had to bring these two people I met each of them individually, and I had to bring them both into my office at the same time, and I'll never forget this. And I had to say to them, look, I love you both. I do. But I'm going to walk out of my office now and leave you two here. I'm going to give you up to an hour. You guys figure this out, because if you don't, even though I love you, for the good of the team, you're both gone. So work this crap out. Get on board with each other. And if you just come 75% of the way and there's 25% that you can't get figured out and you need my help to mediate it, fine, that's cool too. But get there, because this is destructive for the team, this is destructive for the product, and eventually this is going to show to the audience. Figure this out. And these two guys, and I left, I came back an hour later, and they figured it out. All I needed was a little bit of oversight and a little bit of help to nudge them along the way. Mm-hmm. And that's happened because, when you have teams of people, you're going to have conflict sometimes. It happens. But what do you do with the conflict, and where are the people in charge when it's going on? And I got to say, Rob, I'm hearing this stuff about the absentee. In the Hollywood Reporter, they called it that Sony was an absentee landlord. And then while this drama was going on, and ultimately it hurt their movie. And Sony, you may want to put the blame on the producer, and there's blame there for that. You might want to say if Gary Gray should have done that, maybe there's some blame there for that. But at the end of the day, this is Sony's responsibility. They should have stepped in. They should have done something about this. And as a result, their movie suffered. Anyway, that's my thought on this whole thing. Rob, you're looking at this situation. You've read the report. You've been on film sets. You know all this you've produced and directed movies. What's your response to this type of a situation?
First of all, let me say that Walter Parks and Lawrence Lasker produced war games back in '83.
Yes, and he wrote war games as well, if I'm not mistaken.
They are guys
and sneakers.
They've been around the business for a long time, and I don't know Walter Parks. I've never met him, but I'm sure there's a lot of pressure on him, especially as a guy aging in the industry. This is his way to get back in. But there's nothing more toxic on a movie set than dissension between the working producer and the director. We've seen it happen on Hellboy as well. These producers want to be overzealous. They think they know better. I was on the first Men in Black movie. I know these things. First of all, a movie set, everyone, for better or worse, always look to the director. The director, they want to know, is this where the camera's being set up here? Especially the actors. The actors have a relationship with the director. The actors must trust the director. Mm-hmm. If you get in the middle of the relationship that the director has with his on-set crew, meaning the DP, meaning especially his actors, you are interfering with the set, period. You don't do it. Because what you do is you create uncertainty amongst all your crew and cast. That is the single worst thing you can do on a movie set. And Walter Parks knows better. I would place the blame squarely on Walter Parks. He was out of control. And you know what? The production suffered because of it. It's his fault, 100%, according to this article. Right.
And again, to me, I get it. I think there's some there. For me, there's the old saying, it takes two to tango. I'm sure probably there are some things F. Gary Gray probably could have done differently and all that kind of stuff.
Then it should be done. You know what? That's when a producer takes the director aside and says, listen, man, here's my thoughts. And you do it around no one else. You do it behind closed doors.
Yes.
You do it before or after a day shoot, or you do it at lunch. And you never, ever do it in front of people. Your actors should not know. A good producer has to provide the illusion that everything is going perfectly. Because remember, on a movie set, every second costs money.
Yes,
literally.
Tons of money.
And you can actually calculate it based on your shoot day. You can figure out how much each shoot day costs and back into that number. Sometimes every second costs $20. Imagine if every tick of the second hand cost you $20. That producer was blowing money that the studio had, and look what happened to the film as a result.
Yeah, and where was the studio? Where was the studio when this was going on? Like, and that's the part. See, I get it. You put the responsibility of the producer, and there's definitely blame there. To me, it goes even further up the chain.
I agree. The studio should have stepped in.
They should have stepped in. They should have said, "This is our movie. This is our money. We have hundreds of people here who are relying on you two guys to make sure you get along and get this thing moving and going. We thought we had a movie already agreed upon. Did we not? What's going on?" They needed to step in and mediate. Because for all I know, maybe the producer had some really good ideas. Maybe he saw something that was going to be a problem. He was trying to fix it. Okay, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt on that for now. But then there's a way to go about getting that addressed and done. And this type of stuff is not the way you do it. This is what turns into destructive sets. And when you have destructive sets, it's going to hurt the quality of the movie. Sometimes a movie can still turn out fine, but it's going to hurt the quality of it. And I think we saw that play out here because the way they describe this movie in this article, Rob, doesn't sound like the movie I watched. So clearly there was some significant
Absolutely.
changes done.
And you know, these are questions that should be ironed out before you get on set. Once you get on set, I mean, there's the old adage that a battle plan never survives contact with the enemy. But that shouldn't be the case when you're making a movie. And it's the most destructive thing that can happen when you have this kind of dissent on set. It's terrible.
Anyway, guys, what do you make of this whole mess with Men in Black? Do you side more with the studio? Do you side more with the director? Do you side more with the producer? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that...
Wow, that's so unfortunate. I mean, kind of like what John Campea said, you should always give each side, like, the benefit of the doubt. It's always good. It's always nice to hear both sides of the story, the director's side and the producer's side. Maybe they both had good ideas and they just didn't see eye to eye. But I feel it's so unfortunate because the way the story sounded, well, I guess what the director envisioned, he wanted to do like a story on immigration and supposedly the villains were like a band and whatnot. But I guess the producer didn't agree with it and, you know, they were just fighting each other as to see who had the best ideas. And I do agree. I think Sony should have stepped in and say, hey, look, you're using our money to make this movie. You know, time is money. So do it right kind of thing. So it's so unfortunate that this didn't happen. And look at the result. The movie is suffering at the box office and the reviews. But other than that, guys, that's my reaction to this little segment video of John Campea regarding Men in Black. What do you guys think? Do you guys think all sides are to blame? Do you think something could have been worked out? I wish something was able to work out. I wish they were able to talk about it, you know, work with each other before all this. But anyway, let me know down in the comments below, like and subscribe, and as always, take care, guys. Bye.